Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Nigel with you. Part 23 now of this new tool Vulcan build, and we're still on the weathering. Now, I can't remember where I left you last time, but I'd flat coated it and everything again. If you remember, I had the problems with it lifting. I've gone over it again with the washes, and now the bottom is done. The other thing I've done is that large area of black streaking. I've gone in there with some black oil, and that's been on there about 24 hours, and as you can see, it's pretty much dry. I can feel it's sort of slightly damp, but it's pretty much dry on the surface. So what I'm doing here is basically live on camera experimenting. Now, I don't know how to achieve this effect, and I don't know how we're going to get the effect. But if we look at the picture in the book, I've got the book over here unprepared as usual. If we look at the picture in the book on page 50, we can see that this area under this wing is very, very dirty indeed. So for those, there are people that are saying this is all too dirty. I'll put a couple of pictures up now that I've just found online, just put them up just for reference only, and you can see that Vulcans weren't always kept spotless. Maybe this isn't over the top, maybe it is, I don't know. But if I want to go back, I can always go back and just basically come in and do some post shading with some white and bring it back down again. But at the moment I'm quite happy with how it's looking. I know a lot of you think it's too dirty. To be honest, I'm looking at the the computer screen now, and for example this area here, you can see all this brown streaking here. All I'm seeing there is a slightly darkened area. So I think the camera's kind of enhancing it. It's like these areas here coming out of these vents, they look properly black, thick, you know, but all I'm seeing is a brown, it's a brown area coming out of a shadow. I think the camera's sort of enhancing everything. So anyway, this area here, that's black oil with a bit of brown in it. And what my intention is to try and work this and get it into that kind of flowed back shape that we want, because I think it's soot rather than oil. So it's going to be dry rather than wet. And then what I could do is come in afterwards with some pastel, some black pastels and pigments, and rub them into it after it's had a flat coat. We shall see. So let's see what happens. First of all, if we take our brush and we try and... These old brushes are knackered. Somebody asked me what the brushes I use are. I can tell you what they are, but there's really no point. This one, this worn off, because they're basically brushes that were something else once and they're just cut down. So with this I can take off, it's got this kind of texture to it, so I can take that texture off and it's giving it a much flatter look, and I want the edges to be sort of soft and not harsh. I'm wondering what will happen. This is the beauty of ours, as I keep saying, we can keep going backwards. Let's get some more here in my pot. I'm wondering what will happen if I wet it. So let's see what happens if we start to put it around wet. As I say, I'm sort of conscious that it's soot rather than oil, so it won't sort of streak as such, it would sort of just blow around. But when we look at the photograph in the book, we can see it's got a definite sort of soft shadowed edge to it, so a soft cloudy edge. So we can kind of bring it out. Oh, that works, doesn't it? Bring it out like that. Some more thinners on, dry the brush off, and then it seems to be getting the sort of effect I'm after. And as I say, if I come in after with some pastels and just very lightly brush some black pigment on there, I think it will give it that sort of very, very sooty look. I don't know what's going on with this one, because most of the ones you see, they have this hole here, this circular area here, see where I'm putting the brush, that's the exhaust for the APU, and it blows back from there. But this one's also got it all around the front and all down the gear door as well. So I've got the gear door here, and I've put the black oils on there as well. Now, which way does the gear door go? It goes that way, so that anything on there would be blown back. Yeah, we're going a bit far now, I'm moving it a bit too much, so let's just mottle it down a bit. Okay, so again, we're going to put the pastels on. It's going to give us that, we'll see the white through it. As I say, this is not like, you know, when I put a fuselage together or something, I can do it because I've done it a million times and hold it and put the glue in and blah 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 blah. This is something which is fairly new to me, and it is very, very difficult to achieve. I've tried it before with exhaust smoke on the kind of back of a tank or something, and it is very difficult to make it look realistic. So that's got that kind of soft edge to it. I want to kind of get that too wet. Kind of get this going on down the side of the engine. Okay, so there's our basis. So I'm going to grab some black pigment and try out what that happens. Okay, so this is the MIG pigments. I'm not even sure you can get them anymore, but this is 023 black smoke. And as you can see, it is absolutely jet black. So I'm just going to get a brush, use a different brush, just get some on the brush, not too much, and then just brush it into this area, and hopefully the oil paint will hold it down. And the pigments really are great for stuff like this, because it's actually, if you think about it, what's on here is a black soot, and what I'm basically putting on here is a black powder, which is basically what soot is. There we go. So I'm kind of happy with that. Let's see what we can do on this door. And as you can see, what's happening, the oil that's on there is holding the pigment down, which is good, because normally you brush the pigment in really hard and it will make a stain on the surface. But you can apply it wet, it will become like a wash then. You can apply it dry and then put a fixer on it which holds it. You can use Tamiya thinners or whatever, acrylic thinners, or you can use their fixer for washes. You can do all sorts with it. Now, I'm sort of conscious that area looks a bit uniform and I want to sort of taper it down, so I'm going to try something here. As I say, this is all experimentation, so people that want to tell me I'm doing it all wrong, feel free to do so, but if you're rude, I'll just delete your comments. But as you know, guys, this is something that I like to do, and a lot of people love it, is the fact that I will not only show you how to do something, I will also show you how not to do it. So I've just got some oil now, and I'm just basically going to thin this out on the back end, and that is actually giving us a wonderful effect. I don't know if you can see that, but that is looking, no, because if I get it right, let it dry out, and that is actually looking amazing. It's kind of exactly the finish I want, totally by mistake. So what that is on there, that's oil paint left for 24 hours. Then you saw me just go over it and just smooth it out, and then I've put some black pigment on it. And now I've got it quite wet with thinners, and I'm just basically playing with it. Don't like that bit there. So just get another brush. Use a cotton bud. Just remove. There we go. So there we are. That is kind of the effect I'm after. I may just thin this out a bit here. But I don't really know what's going on with this one, with XH562, because it just seems very strange that most of them, as I say, have this kind of, from this hole they have this exhaust like this sort of shape, and it's just this single one black line. But this one also has it coming from the gear door as well, and I thought maybe it was a fire or something, but apparently not. The other thing is, if it was a hydraulic leak, it would be this is the problem with pigments, you see, they're so intense. You know, a couple of spots, a couple of bits of dust, and that's what it gives you, this big black streaking mark. So need some more wash, some more thinners. Get another clean cotton bud. Get it wet with the thinners, and then just see these tiny bits of dust here. You can see I've got a line. That is just from one speck of pigment, that line there. Look. So anyway, there we go. I'm not going to bore you to death with that anymore. I'll get this finished and then I'll be back. And there we go, I'm happy with that. What I've tried to achieve here is the same as I'm seeing in the book. And basically, when we look at the picture again, we can see that we've got these, what looks like two different events going on. You can see that the whole gear door is black, okay, and then from there you've got two tails coming off of the gear door, and then there's that white area behind the gear door, and then the black starts again in that area. So you can see I've tried to achieve the same sort of effect from that. So we can always play with it some more, get some more pigments on there after it's had another clear coat. But the trouble is, anything you do with this now, it's just going to move this around and you get white coming through and stuff. So it's better to seal it in and then go over the top of it if you want to. So we could also come in with an airbrush and some matte black paint, you know, to cover up these white bits here that are showing through where it's been rubbed. And it's just, you could come in with some white in there. You do anything you want, really. It's just a model. So basically, I'm happy with that now. The underside, we've got that dirty streak there. We've got the black gear door. And what I've done is blackened it on the top and then left the bottom. As you can see, the bottom is still slightly, you can see some of the white coming through. And that's just to try and make this sooty look. But I don't know if they had an APU blow up or something and it's blown smoke all back through the front, because I'm assuming this here is the intake for the APU. It certainly looks like it is. I'm surprised there's no decal to go there to say warning exhaust or something, but there isn't. So there we go. So that's the underside as far as I'm concerned done. Now I know some of you think I've gone too far, I've made it too dark. yeah, everybody's in charge of their opinion, of course they are. I think it looks good. As I say, I think the camera's making it look a lot more defined than it really is. This is one of the problems with pigments, guys. You see it just gets everywhere. I've actually cleaned off the whole board now with some IPA on a cloth and then thrown the cloth away. Because the trouble is with pigments, as I say, one little bit just makes a hell of a mark. What I generally do is, if you haven't got one handy here, but when you buy a steak, it normally comes in a sort of plastic tray, which is like this and about sort of 3mm deep. It's great to put down on your board, and if you're doing a tank or something, which is what you would normally use pigments on, you can actually do the work in there, and then you can have a spare Tamiya pot to put all the wasted pigments in. So you've got like a sort of mix up. You'll have like a dark grey brown mix up of all the different colours you've used. Anyway, so there we go. We need to think about the top now. So I need to think about what I'm going to do, and what I want to do is on the top is have again this sort of streaking effect, not quite as effective, because what I want to do, I wanted to take away this white blob look on the bottom, and that's why I've gone for this dirty look. But on the top, I just want to give it some streaking, just make it look a bit worn, some bleaching perhaps. I may go in and do some post shading. I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to do before we carry on with that. And I also want to let all this here sort of dry out and stuff, because I don't want to be touching it and putting finger marks in it. So we'll leave it like that for now, and then I'll come back probably 24 hours and see, but 24 hours for me, a few seconds for you. Okay, so we're back. This is like 48 hours later now, maybe even 72 hours later. And I've done a little bit more work, and I'll show you in a second. But what I've done, I've taken the picture from the book now and scanned it. I should have done this at the start. Scanned it, printed it out in reverse, so this is the correct way round now. So this is showing us just how dirty it was, and we can see all this black area around here and the completely black undercarriage door. I've looked at some other pictures, and they seem to change from sort of being a grey to all black, and it's obviously the exhaust smoke from that APU that's blowing down. But if you look closely, you can also see that there is an area in between where it's not being burnt, so where it's not getting the soot. So I think some of this sooting is coming back from the intake of the exhaust, or coming out of the undercarriage bay itself. I do not know. But anyway, we've gone for that effect, and I've done that. Now I'm going to look at this streaking. You can see we've got streaking here, streaking here. There's streaking around all those actuators for the ailerons. We've already got that with the wash. So there's some streaking here, streaking here. The trouble is I can't define where this actual streaking is coming from with regards to this picture to the model. So either it's just a random area, or the model's got that detail missing. But it looks like there's a panel here. It certainly looks like there's a panel here that's in a different shade. You can see it there. That doesn't appear to be on the model. But so basically I'm going to add this streaking going back here, and then that'll be the underside done. So if I turn it over and show you, a lot of you have complained that it was too dark, so I have actually let it back. And what I've done is I've taken LP35 Tamiya lacquer paint, thinned it about 90% thinner as 10% paint, and then just blown in areas just to lighten them down. And as you can see now, we've lost that sort of yellowy look to things, and we've got more of an off-white now. Okay, so that should please some of you. I was accused of making it into a dog's dinner, so I just deleted that post, but I won't be. I appreciate opinions that say I think it's too dark. You know, somebody had a bit of a laugh and said I didn't realise they flew in coal mines. That's all fun, that's all good banter, but to be outright rude, I just delete them. So what we're going to do now is add these streaks. Now if we look on here, as you can see, we've got this streak here coming from this area on the wing. Well, looking at these, it looks like this dark area here is the landing light. So just in border of that, we've got these here. So I'm assuming that it's coming from this here. Maybe, I don't know. Or there's something here missing perhaps. So I'm going to have it coming from there anyway. And then this here looks like it's coming from this area around here. You can see we've got the two bumps here, there where my finger is, and they're here. And so it's just out border there and just in the wing a bit. So I'm going to have it coming from these panels here. So that should look quite good. And then we'll do the same on this side, and it looks like it's symmetrical. Again, we've got the streaking here and the streaking here. So what I've done, the old oil dried out and is no good, so I just threw that away. I've got some more oil here. I've just got brown, black and the Starship Filth. I think what I'll do is I will use the Starship Filth and the brown. So I'll just take some of that there and take some of that there. Somebody asked about the brushes I use. They're all just knackered brushes, okay? It doesn't matter what they are, it's what they once were that matters. I'm just going to give this brush a clean because it seems to have got hardened oils in it. Okay, so I can just take some of that on there. And I'm just going to literally paint it around here. Just like that. And then this here, I'm just going to paint around this panel here. Put some down, pull it back a bit. Just like that. And then over here, we'll do the same. Around there. This is some kind of pylon mounting, I believe, so it's probably not from there, but I have to have it coming from somewhere, so that's what I've chosen to do. If it's inaccurate, I'm sorry, but whatever. So there we go, just do that, and that will give us our start to having some streaking. Now, if I want to go for a little bit more, just to add a bit more effect, we've got some other streaking around other areas on the wing. You can see on this bit here we've got some coming from an area back here, so it's slightly inboard, so we'll have some streaking coming from this panel here. Get some more of the oil down, and we've got some streaking here around the nose gear bay, which I've already sort of thought about doing. There's some definite streaking here, so that's around an area about here. So what we'll do is we'll come from that panel line there, we'll streak there, and we've got streaking back here which I've already done. Let's get some black in the mix, so we can just put some black. Jess, sorry guys. Okay, and I've just put my finger in that and then smeared that there. That's alright, we can take that off later. So we'll put a bit of black in there with that, a bit of black in there with that, a bit of black in there, we go. Put some in there. So there we are. So that's the start of our streaking. So what I'll do is leave that now for about, I don't know, an hour, and then we can work with it. But if I try and work with it now, it's too soft, it's too wet. Right, here we are. This is like 4 hours later now since I put these daubs on. So now what I'm going to do is see what happens when I try and brush them back. The other thing I forgot to mention, I did this smoke area here, as you can see, and when we compare it to the photograph that I've got, that I've put down over here, it is over here, you can see that it's pretty close to what we're looking at. We've got this blackened door and we've got all that black area around there, so happy with that. Right, so these areas here, this oil will be quite dry. So as you can see, we can now move it around without it all just coming up on the brush. So basically, the direction of travel is going to be parallel with the engines. So I can just pull this back, like so, and turn it into a streaking effect from that area. And then the same here. Again, streaking effect from this panel. Same there, same there. It's so tempting to go like this because you want to go from the leading edge of the wing, but you need to be careful. I mean, I've started to do it there. You need to make sure that you go actually from in the right direction of flight, you know, rather than sort of perpendicular to the leading edge of the wing. So we can come along here now and do this one. We can pull this one back. Like so. Have that one a bit longer because it was a bit wetter to start with. Same here. Same here. Okay, we've got a bit of a mess there, that's okay, I've actually just done that on purpose. As you can see, it's a browny black colour rather than just black. If you just use black, it's going to look fake. That there was that smudge I put on. So there we are. So that's that taken care of. I'm not happy with how that's come out. It's a bit too dark. It's dark here and then it fades out and it goes dark again. So I'll have to do some work on that. So now what I've got is my thinners in here. Oil odorless thinners. So what I can do now is clean up. So I can clean up this area here. Okay, just wipe that away. And then what we can do then is, like on the edge of this panel here, we can remove the oil so that it actually looks like it's coming from that panel. Okay, and then we can, if you want to, tidy up the edges again, just like we did on these shoots up here. We can tidy up, we can stretch it back. Now this here I'm not happy with because it goes light and then dark again, so I'm going to remove some of this here. Let's grab a cotton bud. Just get that dampened, just to remove that area there. And then we can come in with our brush and just streak that back again. And just run it out, run it out so it doesn't have a defined ending. This area here, we're going to remove the oils in front of the bit we're working on. And then once again with the brush, just working in there. And this is the thing with oils, it's just practice, and as you can see I need more, and it's just practice. You just keep working at it, keep pulling it about, keep removing it, putting it back on. It's not a race. You're after the effect rather than getting it all done quickly. And I have seen Phil Floyd do this with an airbrush. With his wash, he's put some of his wash down and blown it back. I think that was on his MiG-24 build. If you go and have a look at that, I think he did it all over the bombs and stuff. Obviously, if you remember on his site. Now these marks here, I want them to stay on those elevons, because when they're down, they will actually pick up some streaking or whatever. Okay, so we're going to leave that now. We know it needs more of a clean up, but I'm just going to leave it because all I'm doing is making the oils wet and it makes them more difficult to work with. This panel here, look, I'm going to remove the oil from that panel. Need some more thinner, surprise, surprise. I don't want to just put some in an old Tamiya bottle and then I'll have it readily available then, wouldn't I? I mean in a Tamiya bottle, that was the wrong one. In a Tamiya bottle the right way up. So I've got a puddle of it rather than a tiny little splash all the time. So just going to remove the oils from the edge of that panel and then come along with a clean cotton bud and remove the excess. And again I can come along the edge of there and just take that away from there. Again, I'm just risking messing this up by playing around in this area here, but there we go anyway. Okay, so you can see this sort of effect we're getting with the streaking. As I say, we can still come back tomorrow and play with it some more. I'm going to remove the oils from there. Remove the oils from that disc. And then remove some from here. There we go. So there's our sort of streaking effects we've got now. I haven't removed any from that disc cover on this side, so we'll just get that off of there, like so. Get a clean bit, like it over, that'll get it clean. And then here, where it's too wide, you can see it's actually wider than the disc, which is fake. There we go. And as I say, we can come back with that tomorrow, come back in a couple of days, come back in about a week, still play with it, because as long as you don't put a sealer over it, you should be able to play with it pretty much indefinitely with your thinners. There we go. So there we've got our streaks now as well. So those of you that are going to say, oh, it's not right, there you go. It's there. Those streaks are actually longer than mine. So there we go. Okay, so like another hour or whatever has gone by, and I've just been having a little play, and I've just discovered something that works quite well. I must be honest, guys, as I've said, this is pretty much new for me, using oils on aircraft. I don't remember ever doing it before. I think I must have done it once or twice, but never like to this extent. But if you get a cotton bud, after it's sort of dried out a bit, if you get a cotton bud and just damp it in thinners, literally so it's just damp, you can work this and manipulate it and move it around and make it look a lot more, I think, realistic, rather than having it like that brushed on look. Like if you look here, this one here looks a bit sort of fake, but you can get a cotton bud, soften it, just dampen it, should I say, not soften it, and you can kind of break down that brushed on look. I'll make sure I stay parallel with these engines. You can see I've done it here, and it's just become like a light sort of streak rather than a definite sort of proper black leak, you know. And I think that looks a lot more effective now. So all I've done, cotton bud, just damp, not wet, just damp, literally, so you could just tell that it's got some on there, and then just pull it all around, move it around. And as I've said so many times without wanting to repeat myself, if you don't like it, you could just wet it, take it all off and start again. And there we go. Right, so here we are another day later, and everything's all nice and dry now, so we can touch it, no worries about damaging anything. I've done all the gear doors and the Bombay doors and everything. You see the Bombay doors are placed in there, and it will now sit on them nicely. So see, rubbing the bottom of the engines and everything. So now I want to move on to looking at the top side and how we're going to actually weather that. Looking at books, they generally look fairly clean on the top, but there are some which show, for some reason, they seem to get a lot of dirty around the fin, around this area here, and there are some that are showing signs of sort of some bleaching and fading. So I'm not going to go mad on this and make it look like a complete and utter wreck, but I do just want to make it look a bit sort of used. And a technique I use is to go over and post shade and basically just blotchy areas of the colour, but lightened. So what we'll do is we'll take the XF83, which is the grey, and we'll put a drop of white in it, okay, and we'll put that on, and then with the green, I'm going to put some XF4, some chrome, well, yellow green it's called. This is zinc chromate, basically. Put some of that yellow green in there, and literally it's going to be like 80% thinners, 20% paint, and it will be sort of 5% this and 95% this, and it's just literally just to give it that kind of bleached effect. And when I've done it, you'll see exactly what I mean, and it'll blend in with all this, where you can see the black coming through and everything. Somebody's also commented about the panel lines. Yes, unfortunately the panel lines, they are a bit over the top. This kind of reminds me of the Trumpeter 132nd scale Typhoon, the Eurofighter, where they put all these panel lines on, all the riveting and everything, and they're actually carbon fiber composite wings. So this is over the top. Yes, it is a bit much. If it didn't have any panel lines, we would moan that it hasn't got panel lines. If it had correct, lapped or raised panel lines, then we would say that's not right, we want engraved panel lines. So we sort of got what we've got, and it's what it is. And if you really do feel that it's kind of over the top, then don't give it a wash, and then you won't see the panel lines come up. The thing that annoys me more than anything, and you can see here, it's quite obvious on the camera, the panel lining in this wing panel is a lot more subtle than the panel lining in this wing panel. You can see it's nothing like it's not as wide and it's not as deep. So that's a little bit annoying. and I don't think it's just because of the wash, because it's a flory wash, and you can see that everywhere over the model it's all this sort of wide, but this area here seems to have this narrower panel lining. On the bottom it's pretty even, but there we go. But you can see the bottom there all done now, and I'm happy with how that looks. So right, let's do some of this bleaching. So I'll get some paint mixed up, and then I'll come back. Right, so what I've got here in the airbrush is, as I say, the XF83 with literally a spot of the white in it. So, and also it's about 80–90% thinner as Mr. Colour Rapid thinners. So we'll do a little test piece first just to see how it looks. Just check the flow. Okay, so what we do is we lay back, we don't come in close, and I'm just going to test it on this little bit here first. So we just lay back, we just literally come in and lay in the tiniest amount of paint without going into the green. Now I doubt you can even see that on the camera, but there is a blotchy, sort of a blotchy grey look in there now. As I say, you literally want to stay off the green. Got some wash coming over the edge there, some oils. And it's so thin, if you get on the decals it won't even cover them up. It is extremely thin. You'll hardly notice, and then when you put a wash on, when you put a varnish on, sorry, a clear coat, it will make it look a lot more obvious. You can see it's just totally random. And this will work with absolutely any colour you do. If you've got a you know, an earth and green, just do the same thing. Lighten down the earth with a lighter brown, with a tan or something. Lighten down the green again with a yellow green. This is just going to give us that bleached. If you really want to go to town with this effect, if you look at a well-worn, many years served F-14 in US Navy or Marine Service, then you'll see what I mean. And the thing of this is subtle. Less is more. You need to be really subtle. If you get too much white, it will look like it's an airbrushed on. You almost want it to not notice, so people almost don't know it's there. Just make it, you know, so subtle that it hardly notices. I mean, I can just about see this. I doubt if you can see it at all on the camera, to be honest. So we better take this off, I guess. No good. No good trying to spray over the masking tape, is it? Right, so just going to pick her up here, come in on the side. Of course, the sides won't be as affected as the upper surfaces. I'm off the camera again, sorry guys, I sit too far back from the bench. So yeah, like I say, I can just see this, and I don't think, I'm looking at the computer screen, I don't think you can see it at all. But it's an effect well worth doing. So I'm going to go on and do the green now, and then I'll come back and I think we'll call it a day for this one. But yeah, I can just see that we've got this blotchy look to it. I'll try and change the lighting or something so you can see it. But I'll see you in a minute when I've done the green. Okay, so there we go, that's that all done. You can't really see it, I've been playing with it. If I hold it like this, you can kind of see the blotchiness in the green here. The camera's kind of accentuating it, so it's very difficult. If I do it like that, you can't see it at all, but if I do it like this, it looks like I've gone over the top, but I haven't. That's how I want it to look. So we've now got that sort of sun-bleached effect, and we can see, well, I can see the difference in all the different colours now, where it's all been a bit sort of, you know, just worn. So what I'm going to do now is give it a filter. Now a filter is like a very, very thin wash. Now, I don't recall ever doing a filter on an aircraft before, so wish me luck. See if this works. Now I've got this Starship Filth, and literally I am going to put a tiny, tiny spot. Yeah, I'm going to get a cocktail stick, and I'm just going to put a tiny spot in there. Hardly anything at all. Okay. And then I'm going to take some of my thinners. Again, this is the Modeller's World thinners. Get that in there, get a good old drop in there. And this will make a very, very thin wash. You can see it's almost like it's not thinned paint, it's dirty thinners. Okay? And this may even still be a little bit too dark. And make sure it's all mixed in and you've got no lumps and bumps in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is have a piece of paper towel here. So because I don't want to flood it, I'm just going to touch the brush on there. And then we can just brush this on. It needs to be wet, but you don't want it absolutely flooded. And what this will do, it's very, very weird. It will kind of bring everything in together as one. It's really weird how it works. If you've got a tank, like a German tank with the tricolour camo on it, it really does bring it in. But you've got to be careful with the colours you use. Like if you've got the German grey, you'd use a blue filter. With this I'm using a grey because it's all grey and green. If you had a like a NATO tank or something, you would use a brown colour. You know, you have a look online and watch some videos, you'll see lots of people using filters. You can buy filters. I've got this big area here now, so I'm not going to remove any from the brush. I can brush it out. What we don't want is puddles, because it'll leave, if you have puddles, it'll leave like a watermark. Brush that out there. And you can see it goes a long, long way. Just like so. The other thing it's doing, unfortunately for some, is accentuating the panel lines. But I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually, what it's doing is it's kind of just, it's putting this grey hue over the camouflage, and it's making it all one. And that's what I want to achieve. And it's working very, very well. This I wasn't sure this was going to work. As I say, these series of videos, it's all about how I build a Vulcan, but it's also turned into kind of, this is how I'm going to experiment with stuff, with weathering. And I'm really pleased with how it's coming out. Underneath, I think probably maybe was a bit too dirty. I listened to you, I took your advice, and I whitened it back. Or lightened it back, should I say. If you can hear screaming children, that's not any children being murdered or anything. I have some new neighbours. They have the noisiest, screamingest. I thought it was like 7 or 8 year old girls. It's not. It's boys of about 9 or 10, and they scream and scream all day. And one day I'm going to go and have a word, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. If there's people working nights, there is no way you'd be able to sleep. It's just ridiculous. It sounds like they're being bloody murdered or something. I don't know, I've just turned into a grumpy old bastard. Probably a bit of both, really. There we go, we're almost done. As you can see, I've stopped removing the excess from the brush because it's just a waste. I'm soaking up more in the paper towel than I'm getting on the model. So if you're doing something like a 76 scale Sherman tank, you would definitely be wanting to remove the excess, because otherwise you'd get puddling. And as I say, if you get puddling, I'm going to take a bit off there. If you get puddling, you'll get watermarks and it looks awful. There we go. Just go and do the nose. The other thing with filtering, you need to make sure you've covered everything and not leave anything behind you, because it will stick out like a sore thumb. That'll make just the right amount by the look of it. There we are. So what I want to do now is just go underneath. Just want to look underneath and make sure I haven't got any flooding onto the underside. There's some there, look, rub that away there. I just want to make sure we don't have any of the grey going onto the white, because it'll look odd with the brown. And there we go. So you can't really see the effect, I don't think, on camera. This is one of the problems with doing this on camera. You can't really see it. It's because it's so large, I think. But get close up, you can maybe see the effect. It's kind of, where I'm touching it isn't doing much good either. It's kind of, it just brings everything together. It kind of makes everything just blend into one. As you can see, the other thing, I've always brushed it in the direction of travel, so that if it does leave any marks behind, then it will be streaking rather than having a blotchy line. I can see just got some very faint lines on that elevon there. So there we go. So that's the effect of a filter. So I'm happy with how that looks. Now I need to leave that to dry for a good few hours before I do anything else with it. Otherwise, if I come in with oil washes and stuff, when I go to remove them, I will, one of my bomb doors just fell off, I think. They're only clipped on, they're not glued on. Yeah, if I go and try to do any washes or anything now, obviously it's just going to remove what I've just put on. So there we are. Happy with that. And what we'll do afterwards is we'll go over a nice clean paper towel and just give it a wipe off and remove any excess or bits of dust or whatever that's got stuck into it. There we are. So that's our filtered and sun bleached camouflage. So I don't think you're going to really see any of this until we do an actual final reveal. There we are. So I'll see you all for part 24 and we'll get this thing finished. So I'll see you then. Bye for now, thanks for watching.